So this morning I want to cover a few articles and discuss. This is yet another way to know that we are at the end time for the Gentiles. At the times of the apostles, they were at the end times for the Jews of Jerusalem. And I know Christianity does not understand this, they don't get it. But it is what it is. I have explained this before. But I'm going to show you some clues in the scripture that your preacher has never shown you and they've never known themselves. We'll go ahead and get started with this particular article. According to Dimitri Medvedev, if there is a world war, the apocalypse will come. Well, we had 2 world wars before and the apocalypse did not come. Why would this one be different? Well, he gives a long rant on Twitter, and this particular article kind of sums it up, gives a synopsis of his long rant. In a very long ex-post, former Russian President Dimitri Medvedev discussed why he thinks there won't be a 3rd World War. Well, if he reads the scripture, he realizes that there is going to be a 3rd World War. According to him, Russia will not attack either NATO or the EU. But if the situation were to escalate, that would be the end. Now, Vladimir Putin and Medvedev many times said they have no interest in attacking any NATO country. And I believe them. However, one must not be, how do I say this? Be vacant in mind, airheaded, whatever you want to call it, and take them at their word. Because, well, look at what he's saying. Russia will not attack either NATO nor the EU. Okay? So he's saying that they would not attack a NATO country or the EU because they know the consequences. But I have to ask all of you, any of you, was Ukraine a NATO country? No. Were they becoming NATO aligned? Yes. So, non-NATO, NATO-aligned countries. Let's look at this here for a second. NATO-aligned countries are not NATO. Now, folks, you see how Sweden and Finland are desperately trying to join NATO. And we have Turkey has been throwing monkey wrenches in the machinery to block them, to block one of them anyway. And now we have Hungary is now blocking Sweden, I believe. So these nations, Austria, Cyprus, Ireland, and Malta. Sweden is also part of the EU and yet to be a part of NATO. But Sweden is a part of the EU. Russia does not have any designs on Sweden. Now, non-NATO allied countries. Well, you have You have NATO countries in the light blue-gray. You have orange major non-NATO allies. All right. You see Russia is trying to get their horn in on Venezuela and places like that, but I don't know if I can get this to pull up. Nope. Let's try this. Oh, well, look what we have here. Look what we have here. Israel. Now, there are, as we speak, if I remember correctly, 3, was it B-1 bombers or B-52s or something like that in Israel right now? Israel is like a 51st state to the United States. Now, this is what my brother told me when he was in the Navy. Like 50 years, well, no, 45 years ago, or close to it. 40 to 45 years ago, he joined the Navy. And, you know, he went around the world and they did a port of call or something like that. In Israel, I believe it was. They went to Egypt, Italy, all kinds of, all different places. But he said that Israel was literally like the 51st state of the United States. But it's not a member of the United States, although the United States government treats it like the United States federal government bosses it around like it's a 51st state, but it's not. And so what I'm saying is this statement by Medvedev is actually suggesting that that the non-NATO countries that are NATO allies, that are also not EU, are fair game. As we have written several times, many European countries say that they need to prepare for war against Russia, that is, the Third World War. The Germans and the Americans have already said this: NATO is ready. But even the Russians themselves. But there are people such as Robert Fico who think that there are no war even in Ukraine. According to Dimitri Medvedev, the deputy president of Russian Security Council, several European countries and other NATO leaders say we must be ready for a war against Russia. However, according to him, Russia has stated quite clearly several times that it will not go to war with either NATO or the member states of the European Union. At least it's not planned. According to Medvedev, all of this is happening so that to distract the electorate from the fact that gigantic sums are being spent on the war of a dying country. He's talking about Ukraine. And this is why the leaders of the states emphasize every day we must definitely prepare for the war against Russia and we must continue to help Ukraine, which is why we need to produce more tanks, missiles, drones, and other weapons, wrote the former president. So Medvedev believes that not all the leaders lie to their citizens, since if, as he says, God forbid, if the World War broke out, then it would not be similar to the military operation in Ukraine. That would be the apocalypse itself. It's all over. So he says, as he wrote, NATO is a huge military bloc. The total population of the alliance's member states is about 1 billion people, and the combined military budget can reach $1.5 trillion. On the other hand, Russia would have no other choice but an asymmetrical response, that is, ballistic and cruise missiles with a special warhead, the nuclear war. According to him, that is why Western politicians should tell their voters the bitter truth and not think of them as brainless idiots. He believes they need to explain to them what is really going to happen and not repeat the false mantra over and over again that we are preparing for a war against Russia. He concluded this post. But see, these people in the Western leaders of Western countries have a depopulation plan. And a nuclear war is a part of that plan. Enter this particular article on Yoga Esoteric exposed the Great Reset, AI revolution, and global boiling. Now you know that they are lying through their teeth. If there was such a thing as global boiling, there would be no life on this planet at all. So the statement global boiling is a damnable lie. But people will repeat utter foolishness coming from sources that they believe in. So what I want to expose to you is that I'm sure you may have seen the Deagel population projection for 2025, but what you may not realize is Deagel's connection to the CIA and other parts of the government, and I will show you this today through this article. Chilling plan has been uncovered that should shock you to the very core. For decades, global powers have been orchestrating a depopulation strategy hidden under the guise of public health crises, economic instability, and environmental concerns. Now, with the dawn of AI revolution, fondly referred to as the Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, the world faces an unsettling future. With artificial intelligence poised to replace low-wage labor, this is what these checkout stands that have nobody running them, but of course they're being thwarted by thieves. They think they can push their agenda of depopulation upon the people, and the people will not rebel. The once indispensable human workforce is now suddenly being painted as the villain in a so-called environmental saga that has been referred to with many names: global warming, climate change, and now global boiling, as the UN Secretary General outrageously announced to the world July 27, 2023, when he falsely proclaimed, and I quote, "Climate change is here. It is terrifying and it's just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended and the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable." That's a lie. I'm breathing the air, and he breathed the lie. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres opening remarks at press conference on climate, and there's the source if you want to go check it out. But the truth is that the alleged climate change crisis is just another cog in a concealed depopulation agenda skillfully engineered by the powers that be. And the only carbon footprint they want to eliminate is you. Brace yourself as we venture into the heart of this spine-chilling narrative, navigating the labyrinth of ominous forecasts, top-secret documents, strategic policies, and the climate change narrative that is a part of a disturbing grand design. Section 1, an AI-driven world and unthinkable proposition. Artificial intelligence, AI, is becoming omnipresent, promising a future of endless possibilities, but could there be a dark twist? Imagine this. As AI continues to evolve, millions, if not billions, of humans will no longer be needed for everyday jobs that have paid low wages by design. They will, in effect, become useless eaters. The establishment is not going to pay for them to live, so instead a plan has been in the making for decades that involves deliberately trimming down the human population. And if one way doesn't work, if an injection doesn't work, if an aerosol poison doesn't work, then nuclear weapons and blame the nuclear war on somebody else, you see. And not who you're thinking that I'm saying. Welcome to a chilling truth that plunges us deep into the underbelly of disturbing predictions and eerie patterns that you will not find on BBC News. Section 2, The Oracle of Doom. Deagel's Depopulation Forecast. Deagel.com is an obscure online entity known for its exhaustive data on military capabilities and eyebrow-raising depopulation forecasts for 2025. We can reveal that recent findings link Deagel directly to significant players on the world stage: the Central Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the Rockefeller Foundation. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation. Okay? Let us look at the horrifying American roots of Nazi eugenics. I urge you to read this whole article, written by Edwin Black. And it starts this way: Hitler and his henchmen victimized an entire continent and exterminated millions in his quest for a so-called master race. But the concept of a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed master Nordic race didn't originate with Hitler. The idea was created in the United States and cultivated in California decades before Hitler came to power. California eugenicists played an important, although little-known, role in the American eugenics movement campaign for ethnic cleansing. And by the way, folks, this is why all this evil Sodom and Gomorrah stuff comes from California, because they are still attempting to stifle reproduction. I hope you have an IQ above room temperature. You should know what I mean. You know, Sodom and Gomorrah replacing the natural order of male and female. Eugenics was the racist pseudoscience determined to wipe away all human beings deemed unfit, preserving only those who conform to the Nordic stereotype. That would be the sons of Japheth. For those of you who are not knowledgeable of the Table of Nations, and I have done several videos on that. Elements of the philosophy were enshrined as national policy by forced sterilization and segregation laws, as well as marriage restrictions enacted in 27 states. In 1909, California became the third state to adopt such laws. Ultimately, eugenics practitioners coercively sterilized some 60,000 Americans, barred marriage of thousands, and forced segregations of thousands in colonies, and persecuted untold numbers in ways we are just learning. Before World War II, nearly half of coercive sterilizations were done in California, the most progressive state in the Union. And even after the war, the state was accounted for a third of all surgeries. California was considered an epicenter of American eugenics movement during the 20th century. First decade, California's eugenicists included potent but little-known race scientists such as Army venereal disease specialist Dr. Paul Papineau, citrus magnate and polytechnic benefactor Paul Gosney, Sacramento banker Justin Gaethje, as well as members of the California State Board of Charities and Corrections, and the University of California Board of Regents. Eugenics would have been so much bizarre parlor talk had it not been for the extensive financing by corporate philanthropy, specifically the Carnegie Institute, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Harriman Railroad fortune. You see, every time there is eugenics going on, Rockefeller Foundation is right in the middle of it, as the case with pushing the needle the past 4 years. Folks, I have to be careful how I speak. This video might get tossed off of YouTube, but I'm going to have it on BitChute. So if you want to watch the video and it's not on YouTube, it will be on BitChute. Rockefeller Foundation. Now let's go back here. What do we have here? Deagel's depopulation forecast. Deagel.com is an obscure online entity known for its exhaustive data on military capabilities and eyebrow-raising depopulation forecast for 2025. We can reveal that recent findings link Deagel directly to significant players on the world stage, the CIA, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the Rockefeller Foundation. Here we have the same usual suspects. Now you see what's really going on here. Deagel's apocalyptic depopulation forecast for 2025, that's right, next year. I hope you folks are paying attention now. Some of you have been laughing at me wearing this potato sack and the Mogan David. Don't laugh. Significant depopulation or population declines in various countries, stirring unease given the current excess death data being recorded around the world. Deagel.com's infamous 2025 forecast was removed from their website sometime in 2020. However, thanks to the Wayback Machine Internet Archive, we are able to view the original predictions before it was discovered by critical thinkers. In 2020, Deagel offered a series of startling predictions. By 2025, they projected that the population of the the United Kingdom would shrink by a staggering 77.1%. Why the United Kingdom? Aren't they? Oh, that's right. They've been invaded or invited in by a bunch of by their elites, by the non-white blonde-haired and blue-eyed people. And quite frankly, English people may have blue eyes, but not that many of them have blonde hair, and a minority of them have blue eyes. So maybe that's the reason. Who knows? The United States was not far behind with a forecast decrease of 68.5%. Germany was predicted to witness a 65.1%, while Australia was expected to see a population dip of 34.6%. These projections highlight significant declines in many other Western countries. Now, you know, if you want to, you can click right here if you want to see Deagel's original apocalyptic depopulation prediction. Now, but we can affirm that Dr. Edwin A. Deagel Jr., who passed away on February 16, 2021, is the confirmed figurehead authorities would like you to believe is solely behind Deagel.com. During his life, Dr. Edwin served as the assistant to the Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. He was also the Director of International Relations for the Rockefeller Foundation. So he was in the know. He knew what they were planning on doing. And he knew when they were planning on doing it. And here are documents dated in 1977 proving that Dr. Edwin A. Deagel Jr. was in contact with the CIA right here. And then another one proving that he was in contact with the Rockefeller Foundation. And another one Department of Central Intelligence, that's another CIA one, okay? The CIA has released 23 Freedom of Information articles, and you can look at them right here. There it is right here in front of you. You can go find it and find the links for yourself and read them for yourself. Related to Dr. Deagel, the Rockefeller Foundation, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the former director of the CIA. This information underlines that Deagel.com is not a one-man operation, but a rather concerted effort by key components of the U.S. military-industrial complex, namely the CIA, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the enigmatic Rockefeller Foundation. And I just showed you what the Rockefeller Foundation had attempted to do. And they didn't just go away and say we were wrong. No, they wanted to wait for the right time. Now, I've already gone over Henry Kissinger and his backstabbing of the people of Israel. So I don't need to go into him. Section 4. UN Agenda 2030, Eco-Terrorist, Propaganda and Lies, Problem, Reaction and Solution. Agenda 21, alleged initial arm was to achieve global sustainable development by the year 2000, with the 21 and Agenda 21 referring to the original target of the 21st century. The UN's Agenda 2030, also known as Sustainable Development Goals, was a set of goals decided upon at the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit in 2015. Agenda 2030 took all the goals set by Agenda 21 and reasserted them as the basis for sustainable development. Agenda 2030 professes to protect biodiversity, but deep within its winding narratives and subplots lurks a sinister script for a world with fewer humans. If we look beyond the fluffy language they use as an attempt to convince you that they are a force of good, then we can see what their actual aims truly are. And Dr. Michael Kaufman and Henry Lamb have some of the answers. Dr. Michael Kaufman was an author, researcher, speaker, and founding contributor to the fight against Agenda 21, Sustainability Development, and he was president of Environmental Perspectives Incorporated and executive director of Sovereign International. Dr. Kaufman played a crucial role in stopping the ratification of the Biodiversity Treaty in the U.S. Senate. However, he sadly died in 2017. Henry Lamb was the first to discover Agenda 21 and sound the alarm. He wrote the book The Rise of Global Governance and Agenda 21. He also produced a series of videos on Agenda 21. These stand as invaluable tools for anyone wanting to know where this evil agenda came from and why it needs to be stopped. Lamb died in 2012. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I don't. It's too long, but you can do this on your own. And the gist of what I'm trying to tell you is they want a lot of people dead, and that's the reason why they are pushing for nuclear war. They found out, and listen to me carefully, okay? They found out through Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that nuclear fallout was not going to last as long as they thought it would. The two cities are operating normally right now. They also found out that after the Chernobyl incident, that animals, wild animals, live extremely well in all the contaminated areas around Chernobyl. So, they reason that if they can start a nuclear war, force somebody else to start it, make that somebody else be the bad guy, that they can make themselves look like the good guy trying to save you. But you see, there is a slight problem. They are not considering that the time of the end for the Gentiles was predicted. And nobody knows exactly what day it happens. But even the demons know when the time is and when the time is not. So what I want to do next is to go to Matityahu, not Matthew, 8. Let's start in verse 26. And he came, when he was come on the other side of the country, of the Gergesa, he met him two, says two, possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, or coming out of the graveyard, exceedingly fierce, so that no man might pass that way. And they cried out, and they say, What have we to do with you, not Jesus, but... Come on. Yehoshua. His name was never changed to Jesus, never ever was Jesus, never will be Jesus. It always was, and is now, and shall always be Yehoshua. Yehoshua means Jehovah is salvation. It also means Jehovah's salvation. Jesus is in Latin, it means something else, and I dare you to look it up. Now, but Yehoshua, what have we to do with you, Yehoshua, you son of Elohim? Are you come here to torture? That's right, to torture. To torture us before the time. Well, they knew it wasn't time yet. They knew the time of the end was not yet. And there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. And so the devils besought him, saying, If you cast us out, allow us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they came out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down from a steep place into the sea of Galilee, and perished in the water. Okay? What is this legion of demons? What is their modus operandi? Well, they possessed 2 men, but when they were cast out, when they were rebuked, when they were cast out, they entered into a bunch of swine and caused the swine to commit suicide. I want you to think about that. So when it is time for Yehoshua to come and rebuke the demons in the last days, in this time, what will they do? Attempt to commit mass suicide in their hosts? You see what I'm talking about, don't you? So, but what about Israel? So let's look at Matityahu. I want to go to Romans 11 once again. Actually, I want to go to Romans 11 first. I keep going to this passage because Christians hate it so much, but it is what it is. It's the truth. Verse 25, for I would not, brethren, he's speaking to the Romans, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that partial blindness happened to Israel until the hourglass of the Gentiles is filled up. Does it say hourglass? No, it says the fullness. But it means hourglass. The sands of time is filled up for the Gentiles. How do I know this? Well, it's very simple. We go to Luke 21, is it? Right. Until the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Same phrase, but the word time is in here. And so, as I have pointed out many, many times, this particular part is the destruction of Jerusalem. And this is the return of the Son of Man and the tribulation upon the Gentiles. Luke 21, Matthew 24 has the same thing. So this right here is the tribulation upon Jerusalem. The abomination of desolation did come, and they did destroy the temple. Okay? And then this is, right here is, after Israel's tribulation comes tribulation upon the Gentiles. You want proof? But now, not immediately, it says but now, after the tribulation of those days. Wait a minute. That is the only tribulation, right? Wrong. After tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the sky, and the powers of the sky shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in the sky, and then all the tribes of the earth will be cut off. To be struck, cut off. Well, Paul warned about this very thing in Romans 11. His warning was to, what am I doing? Romans 11. To the Romans here. He said if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive, you were grafted in among them. But see, the Gentiles say, no, we were not. We replaced them. I showed you in the video a couple of videos ago about the damnable heresy of supersessionism, replacement theology, and partaking jointly with them, right there, partaking jointly with them, being a co-partner with Israel, of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, therefore do not boast against the branches. But not only did you boast against the branches, did the entire church boast against the branches, but they also, for nearly 2,000 years, sought to exterminate them, and that is why this is written here. For then shall be great tribulation. And where it says, and pray that your flight is not on the Sabbath day, he's referring to judgment, tribulation upon the Jews in this part right here. For there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Why would he say a thing like that? Because in the history of the world, there was never a constant persecution of any people for nearly 2,000 years like there was the Jews. Never. It never happened. It was the worst. Okay? And it says, except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved at all. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Who are the elect? You want me to tell you a lie or want me to tell you the truth? If you want to hear the lie, go listen to your preacher. He'll tell you the lie. But if you want to listen to the truth, I'll show it to you right here in Isaiah 46. So who are the elect? That's 45, I believe. Yep. Now, for Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, my elect. You see that? Right there. I've called you by your name. I have surnamed you, though you have not known me. For the elect's sake. Now, if you say that Israel is no longer the elect, but that the church is, you are practicing the unforgivable sin of, that's right, I said that, the unforgivable sin of replacement theology. Because we just read, co-partners with Israel. Partaking jointly of, co-partner. You can't get around it. I got you. Co-partner with them. And then when you go down here, he says they're going to be grafted in because Jehovah is able to graft them in again. If you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and you were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more, how much greater their opportunity shall be when those natural branches are grafted back in their own olive tree. They're going to be. That's why it says, for I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits. That partial blindness happened to Israel until the time of the Gentiles comes to the end, like we read right here in Luke 21. Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now, we're going to go look back here again very carefully, because there is writings here that you will find where he says he is going to send them his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. You just heard and read what is being said from the four winds, from one end of the sky into the other. Now let's look at Isaiah once again, from the four corners of the earth. Of the earth. Isaiah 11, I believe it's Isaiah 11. There it is right there. See, it all goes back to the prophets. It all goes back to the prophets. All right, so let's look at Isaiah 11. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse. That's the good olive tree that Paul was talking about. And a branch shall grow out of its roots. And the ruach of not the Lord, of Jehovah shall rest upon him. And the ruach of wisdom and understanding, the ruach of counsel and might, the ruach of knowledge, and the fear of not the Lord, but Jehovah. Okay? Let's scroll down here a little bit. And let's go to verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which will stand for a sign of the people. To it the Gentiles will seek, and the resting place shall be glorious. What is the resting place? Come on, folks. It shall come to pass in that day that, not the Lord, Adonai, shall set his hand again a second time to recover the survivors of his people, those that remain alive. And where is he going to gather them from? From Assyria, which is from Iraq, from Egypt, aka North Africa, from Pathros. What is this? A designation of upper what? Upper Egypt? Probably. And from Africa, mainland Africa, and also India, and from Iran, and from Shinar, and from Syria, and from Rome. Western civilization, the coastlands of the sea. Oh, you don't believe it? Watch this. There you go. All of this, they're going to gather them from because that's where they were scattered to. They were scattered to all the Gentiles. Now, and he will set up a sign for the what? The Goy, the Gentiles. And will assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Yehuda from the four corners of the earth. I know some of you are going to say, now that's not what he's talking about. You can keep on deluding yourself until the day of judgment. That is your choice. But I have just given you proof. Irrefutable proof. Undebatable proof. I've just given it to you. It's going to happen because as is written here, if the days of Israel's tribulation did not end, the Gentiles would off themselves and Israel. And we are seeing signs of that beginning to happen right now. Honestly, folks, I do not know what it's going to take to convince some of you. I'm trying my best to put this information out there for you. You can plainly see that they're planning on killing off as many of the people in the world as possible, and they think that they themselves are going to survive. Well, you know what they say, the best laid plans often go awry. If their plan were to succeed, it would succeed so well they would off each other until there was nobody left alive. That's the reason why the time of Israel's tribulation must end. Israel must be saved. If Israel is not saved, then nobody's going to be saved. I know some people will think that is a preposterous thing to say. Well, you know what? Noah told the world that there was going to be a flood covering the earth, and they didn't believe it. 8 survivors from that event. I'm pretty sure that more than 8 believe what I'm saying right now. Pretty sure of it. And I think I want to leave you with a scripture that you may not have read. The fall and the rising again. Watch this. And the rising. I hope it's there. I don't know why, of many in Israel. I might have to Google it. There it is right here. Luke 2:34. Let's go to Strong's Concordance. Once again, his name is not Jesus, never was Jesus, and never shall be. His name is Yehoshua, was Yehoshua, and shall always be Yehoshua. Okay? So, here was a prophecy of Shimeon. And lo, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name is Shimeon. And this man is righteous and devout, looking for the comforting of Israel. And the Ruach was upon him, and it had been told him by the Ruach that he will not see death before he may see the Moshiach of Jehovah. And he came in the Ruach to the temple, so the Ruach caused him to go to the temple. And in the parents' bringing of the child, not Jesus, but what do you see? Yehoshua, that is his name. The other name is a pagan name, having no relation to Yehoshua whatsoever. For their doing according to the custom of the Torah regarding him, and then he took him in his arms and blessed Jehovah, and he said, now you send your servant away, Jehovah, according to your word in peace. So now he knew it was his time to die. Because my eyes did see your salvation, which you prepared before the face of all the peoples, a light to the Gentiles and a glory of your people Israel, as it was written in the prophet Isaiah. Joseph and his mother were wondering at the things spoken concerning him, and Shimeon blessed them and said unto Miriam, his mother, Look, this one, he is the one who's going to set for the falling and rising again of many, not a tiny few, much in Israel. Many in Israel, set for the fall, and that was in 70 AD until now, and the rising again of many in Israel, for a sign. Okay? Also, that your own soul shall a sword pass through. And the reasonings, or the dialogue, or the inner man of many hearts being exposed. That's right, to be uncovered, to reveal. Now, what have you got to say? Folks, it's over. You see what they're planning on doing. If you have listened this far into this video, you know what the final outcome is going to be. Hopefully, see you in Jerusalem. Maybe next year in Jerusalem.